Hey, welcome back to Life Groups. Hope you have had a great week so far, and we're going to be talking about last week's message. It was awesome, a message on a generous sacrifice. But before we get started, we have to address the elephant in the room. I have a stain on my shirt right here, and yeah, it's a big deal. I didn't notice it was there until just now. Allie's filming and she told me, you have a stain on your shirt. I don't have another shirt. So we're just gonna have to roll with it. But here's the good news. It's toothpaste. So at least you know that I brushed my teeth today. So with that being said, I just wanted to get that out of the way so that you all weren't like giggling the whole time while I was talking, but just for this portion. And now we can move past it onto the questions. Okay, so anyways, like I said, the message this weekend was a generous sacrifice. Just super great message. And our first question, we'll kind of get into it with a little bit of backstory. We started off by, my dad was reading scripture out of 2 Samuel and the story of David, King David taking a census of his army, which at first glance doesn't seem like a big deal, but David was kind of famous for relying on God as he was a small shepherd boy to defeat a big giant in Goliath. And so this kind of census, what was happening was a heart issue for David because he was counting to reassure himself that he had enough men to fight his battles instead of relying on God. So David says himself that he has sinned against God. So we're going to start off with kind of a simple question, as we always do, an icebreaker, but I think there's something to learn here if we dive into it. So the first question is, what is sin? And why is it bad for us? And some of you seasoned Christians are thinking, well, that's really simple, Brett, but is it? That's the question I want us to answer. Is it just what we think, bad stuff, or is there a little bit more to it? And how can we not sin? Why is sin bad from us? Is it because it is a virus for our soul, or is it because of separation from God, or is it, go down the different things. So what is sin? Why is it bad for us? Ready, set, go. Jumping back, so later on in the story, we'll do a little fast forward. So God has 3 punishments for David to choose from. David chooses the one that has a plague. And so the plague starts coming in for 3 days, and 70,000 people die. It's a big deal. So David then is like, God, please just take this out on me and my family. The people of Israel did nothing. Even though they did, he was trying to be a good king and take the blame, which some of us can learn from. But later on, he goes to this guy named Arana. I think that's how you pronounce it. Who knows? But he goes to him to buy a threshing floor. There's kind of this structure, this building, a plot of land, wood on the floor, threshing floor for harvesting and all that stuff. If you don't know it, the details of that you can check it out in the message. I don't have time. But it's a threshing floor. So David offers to buy this so that he can build an altar to God. And so Arana says, you know what? No, I want to give it to you for free. But David says, no, I need to buy it. I won't give God a sacrifice that costs me nothing. Okay, so the question here is, why does David insist to purchase this threshing floor and the materials? Why does he insist to pay for it? And what can that teach us about sacrifice? So why does he insist that he has to pay for it? And what does that teach us about our sacrifices? And even further, what does that teach us about tithes and offerings and things that we give unto the Lord, or our time and our love and convenience? All right, so go ahead and answer that question, and then we'll be right back. Ready, go. Okay, those were great answers. I'm glad you're still with me. This is an awesome time. We're having a good time. This is a great YouTube video. So here we go. The next one, later on in the message, we talked about how Paul references and tells us to be living sacrifices, giving our bodies to God. So what does that even mean? I mean, for those of you that might be new to this thing, you're like, I didn't sign up for this whole human sacrifice thing. Pause. We didn't say human sacrifice, living sacrifice. So let's answer that question just for clarity. What is a living sacrifice, and how do we become that? How do we become a living sacrifice? How do we live in that? And so answer that. Have some fun with that. Ready, set, go. All right, we're back. So last question here, and then we're done for this week. So in 2 Corinthians 4, Paul writes to the church of Corinth, and he says, if you scroll down to the bottom, right around verse 10, he says that in our suffering, we become like a testimony to Christ in how he lived and died through the suffering of our bodies. So, what? So here's the question. How is our suffering a testimony to Christ? And what does that mean for us? Does that mean that we should pursue suffering? Does that mean we should delight in suffering? Or does it simply mean that we should be prepared and I don't know, we see that Paul says that we might even rejoice in suffering. So this is kind of a tough question. How is suffering, our suffering specifically, a testimony to Christ? And is it a good thing? So go ahead and kind of flesh that out, deal with that, dive deeper if you'd like. But how is our suffering a testimony to the body, the life of Christ? And that should be it. Real quick, before we say goodbye, I want to invite you this Friday night at 7:45 p.m. We've got a movie night out on the lawn. Bring your friends, bring your family. It's going to be super fun. We're watching Big Hero 6, and he looks like a big marshmallow, and I love marshmallows. So be there or be square. Later. Bye.